Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask the Accountant. In today's episode, we have two for the price of one as we go and look at our cool friends, Sam and Sam. And I'm going to let Sam and Sam explain exactly what they do in Swoop. Over to you guys.
First of all, thank you for having us. I suppose if you guys are the Ant and Dec of the accounting world, that probably makes us the Jedward, doesn't it?
I don't know. Maybe I could do the hair. Maybe not at the back, but I can do it at the front.
I'm Sam Tasker-Grindley, so I'm head of Swoop for advisors. My background is I'm a chartered accountant myself. I was in practice for 10 years before moving on to the software side. I joined Sam Horner here to grow and scale Swoop for advisors. So providing funding solutions and services for accountants.
Yeah, Sam Horner. Been in this industry, professional services 20 years, but about 8 years working in the accounting tech space. Formerly Receipt Bank back in the day. I know everyone knows it's Dex now. Was there for 4 years, building out their top 50 accountancy offering. Then moved over to Futurely for a couple of years, and then joined Swoop through the partnership that I built back in August 21. And then, basically building out the advisor channel. Brought Sam along back in December 21, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
And then we've basically just been building the channel out and working with accountants that we know and love, and working with them far and wide.
Brilliant. Okay, so you're a chartered accountant. You've worked for Receipt Bank, Dex. I'll be honest, based on the interviews we've done today, who hasn't?
Fair.
I was one of the originals, though. I just want to point that one out.
That's what the last one said.
Max wasn't an original.
Cool. Okay, so you've been in and around the environment of the accounting world for a while. Where are we now compared to where we were then? Like, what challenges are we facing now compared to what we were when you guys first got into it? Are we in a better place now than we were, or are we in a more difficult place now than we were?
From a tech perspective, in some ways we're in a better space because we now have cloud accounting. Ultimately, that didn't exist when I first came in. Xero had just come to the UK, and we can now do things more efficient. But actually, in essence, there's almost no overcrowded market now, and I think one of the issues that we have, even with just with Xero alone, of 1,000 integrations and apps. You think as an accountant, I feel for you guys, really, really feel for you, because constantly there's somebody wanting a piece of you. They're really, really, and they're all selling to you. And there must be even more than 1,000 that are out there. So I feel like we've almost gone backwards in a way, because there's so much, and I know people talk about act fatigue in the market now, because nobody seems to have one solution. It's a bit of, we have a bit of this, a bit of that. There is a few purists out there, like you guys on the QuickBooks side, but there's not many that are out there that they will dabble in different softwares, and no one really has mastered the one solution. So I think, yes, cloud has taken us on from a storage perspective, and now working from home, and when COVID hit, couldn't have been a better time to move to cloud. But from I guess the choice is probably too much. We will see a consolidation in some respects as well. But right now, I feel like, it's moved forward, but it's also stood still in some respects.
From my point of view, this is a strange thing to say, given I've left the profession to an extent. I think it's a very exciting time to be an accountant. I think if I was to go back, or if I joined accounting now rather than 10 years ago, I'd be quite excited about my prospects being an accountant, because I think it's much more about being client-facing, client-focused, looking at added value pieces on top of all of the compliance stuff. And it's less about just being sat behind your desk. It's actually about getting in front of businesses, spending a bit more time understanding them. So from an accountant's point of view, I think it's a really exciting time in the industry. Completely agree. There's a lot of software and apps, but if you cut through the noise and think about what you actually need and want in your business, and not just what you want, but what your clients actually need and want, which I think there's a big difference, because there's toys for accountants and there's the stuff that your clients actually need and want. I think it's a great time. And from your guys' perspective as a lead of accounting firm, I mean, how many acquisition possibilities are there out there for you as well, where you can massively scale your growth beyond just the organic, because some people won't want to keep up with the times. So there's that as well.
Brilliant. So you guys are both with Swoop now. Accountants used to be a tax return, annual accounts, see you once a year. Thanks very much. Potentially get paid 30, 60 days later, and that'd be it. And companies like Swoop didn't exist. There wasn't a need for you in the accounting space. We've gone into this advisor mode where advisory can be from as little as something of me turning around to a client saying, go turn off your coffee machine at night, that will save you some money. That ultimately is advisory.
Yeah.
Through to securing hundreds of thousands of pounds of lending, to acquire a new business, as you said, to buy a new fleet of vehicles, to replace an overdraft facility, to buy assets, stock, etc. There's a whole scale of advisory. And I think a lot of people get hung up on what advisory means and what it should do. If you've got any kind of advice as to how to kind of start looking at advisory for accountants and bookkeepers that perhaps maybe they've only just coming into the industry and they keep being told by all these business gurus, advisory this, advisory that, or perhaps they've been in for a while, they keep getting told advisory is the thing, and that's the new buzzword, but actually they still haven't really quite worked out what advisory looks like.
The first thing I would say is the key to our success, funding, savings, etc., is still compliance. We can't do a funding application, or we can't take a funding application from A to B without good financial statements, up to date real time information, management accounts, etc. So this waffle about compliance being dead is just not true. It's fundamental to being able to deliver advisory services, in my opinion. It's the someone said it's the gateway to advisory, and in a lot of ways I do believe that. So there's a balance. Like, you still need to be offering compliance services. It gives you it helps you to build the trust with the clients, so that you can then create that platform for yourself to then help with all of these other things, such as funding, etc. So we can do what we were doing without compliance, but for funding, savings, grants, etc., the stuff that we do, really a bookkeeper, accountant, all they need to do is give the client a platform to talk about their business. That is sometimes just the key to it. Every business owner loves to talk about their business. They're passionate about it. They're proud of it, especially from an SME point of view. So give them that opportunity and genuinely listen to them, which I think is the key. Don't just hear them, but actually listen to what they're telling you. And everyone's a bit concerned at the moment. There's lots going on, energy prices, economies in the gutter. Just give them that opportunity to listen. That's very difficult if you have an annual relationship with your clients, because often that annual relationship is 9 months after the year end when you're presenting the accounts, which don't mean an awful lot to them right now, especially with the way that the landscape is changing and how quickly it's changing at the moment. So it's to give yourself that platform to speak to clients and then generally listen to them is my biggest piece of advice.
I also think as well, most firms don't realise they're giving advice. Like you just said there, Johann, is talking about turning your coffee machine on that. You're having a conversation with your client, and if they're asking you questions around something that's outside of their business or something that's out of your realm of accounting, then you are the trusted advisor. I hate that cheesy saying, but it's true. You are the relationship manager. You are what was the ex-banker. I was a banker for 10 years. I know what it's like to have that relationship, and the accountant is now that individual, and it's such a powerful position to be in. It's just whether you choose to, as Sam said, listen to what they're saying. It's okay going, oh, I've got to deliver this. The bit that really, really was a big bugbear of mine, working previously with a forecasting solution, was, oh, great, we can do some lazy forecasting now, or we can do some lazy reports where once a quarter we just send out this report that's just been spat out by your system that tells them what's happened. They don't have a clue what that means. Some pretty charts and graphs means absolutely nothing to the business. But if you actually spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes talking about what that actually means to their business and going, actually, if you can do that 10% there, clean more windows, it means you can take your kids to Disneyland or whatever it may be, whatever their goals are for that business. It's so easy to do, but we shy away from doing it. And that's the bit of most firms that shy away from it. It's like, have the confidence to have that conversation. And you don't, if you know what their goal is, then you can help them achieve it. And it's a much easier way of doing it if you have the conversation or listen.
One of the key things you said there is is why are you doing it? Are you just doing advisory because you've been told it's something you need to do in your firm, or is it because you actually care? And I know everyone cares about their clients, but if you're just trying to launch or scale advisory services because some thought leader in the profession says that you should be doing it, you've missed the point already. In my opinion, you need to actually get to the crux of how can you support and add value to the business. And like you said, lots of accountants probably are giving advice and they may not be being paid for it, but ultimately it's creating sticky relationships. You probably are upselling some other services, but it's just about genuinely caring and not just doing it because you've been told to do it.
And it's an enjoyment factor as well, isn't it? Like, let's be completely honest. We as accountants, you probably remember from your profession, and we didn't become an accountant because we enjoy filing tax returns and all that sort of stuff. We did it because we care, and that's ultimately what it's down to, isn't it? So with kind of that shift now, and we as accountants, we're being told and we're being asked to do more business advisory. Do you think tech is, because you're saying there about there's so much tech out there now and there's so much and we're being swamped to it, do you think ultimately that's helping us, or do you think that's actually holding us back, where we should go to the basics like you were saying there, and that empathy? What do you think, there's a balance to it or a middle ground, or what was your opinion?
Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, it's very easy to hide behind tech and use that to drive conversation. It's great to have it from a base of conversation and going, okay, let's look at this and let's just deep dive and understand exactly what is there. But don't use the tech to do the conversation. It should just still be, yes, these are the numbers, great, okay, well, what does those numbers mean? Why is that trending that way? What is it that's doing that? But yeah, and for me, the bit, and I'm nosy, maybe that's just my nature, but I love to know what someone's doing. And I love, like Sam was saying, what is your why? Why are you actually doing this? Why did you go to business in the first place? And to be honest, most people can't answer that. But to actually ask them, I even had it with an accounting firm. I was like, so what's your exit strategy? She went, never thought of that. I was like, so you don't know where you want to go and what happens? I said, well, how do you speak to your clients? Well, I talk to them about exit all the time. Oh, of course I do. So what about you as an individual? And it's amazing how many people don't think about what happens that day. When do I want to sit on a beach in Mauritius, which clearly Johann does,
as often as possible.
or what is it that I want to do? Do I want to leave a legacy? Do I want to? No one really asks those questions, and as Sam said, once you get to understand that, you go, right, how do we get you there? How do we work through that? And yes, there might be some tech that's in there, but I think one of the things I see in the industry as well, the client doesn't care whether it's QuickBooks Zero, if it's Free Agent, if it's Dext, if it's Futurely. They don't care what the product's called, as long as they just need to know, does that work for me, and does that help me get to where I need to be? And I think that's the bit that we get too hung up on in the industry, of going, oh, we've got this shiny thing and this is what it's called. It's like, no, it just, as long as it enables me to get to where I need to be, then I'm happy. And yeah, I think there's a big shift that needs to change within that.
Yeah, to just remind everyone of your question about tech, is tech, because it's a long answer.
Yeah, I went off.
Is tech helping the industry?
That's what we're here for.
Is tech sort of helping the industry? Depends on the tech, I think. There's some amazing tech out there, some of the ones you mentioned, that save time for the accountant. Great. But what are you doing with that extra time? Is that, and I've asked a few accounting firms this question, what would you do if you had more time in your business? 9 times out of 10, the answer is I would go out and try and win more clients. Now, for me, the answer really should be I will do more with my existing clients. So what are we using tech for? Is it just to put more into the top of the funnel, or is it actually to grow those relationships within? I think there's a really key distinguishing factor there. What are you using tech for? Is it just to churn out more clients and have more relationships, or is it to make those ones you've already got better? Because it's getting more competitive in this space. If you don't provide all these extra services, potentially someone else might. So are you better off spending more time on using the tech to enhance those relationships you've already got, rather than just going back into the market?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think that is a problem. Is so many people look at it and go, "Oh, I'm going to save this much time. I can go out and get new clients." That's a hard, expensive route to take. Do you want to go and waste time trying to get new clients, or do you want to spend half of that time you're getting back going and improving the relationship with your current clients so they stay with you longer and potentially increase the value of their relationship with you. Whether that's going and speaking to them an extra once or twice a year and then securing them lending where there's a referral fee for them, that increases the bank balance and the value of that client, and it improves that relationship and makes them stickier, as you guys have said.
Yeah, it's such a weird one. We all do it. We go, we want more. But what it actually creates more problems. And you've probably got someone shouting out for more services that that you can provide them that you don't even realise. And I think it is just taking a step back. I've seen some firms do it that have gone, I've scaled and I've got all these staff now, and then actually speak to them again and they go, I've got rid of all my staff and I've now only got 30 clients. I've got 30 amazing clients, and I am pretty much in their business, and I'm working closely with them, and they trust me with their life, and I'm part of the furniture. And they're embedded in that business, and actually they're a hell of a lot more profitable doing it that way and happy at the same time. Just this numbers thing that I don't really understand.
Yeah, it's much easier to sell more to existing clients than go out and win new ones. So, let's have. And by the way, software and apps are guilty of this as well. It's always pretty much every app out there. I mean, some people might come and question this, but pretty much everyone has a too sales focus and not enough success focus. If you focus more on success and growing partnerships that really matter, that are successful, you run around with a ton of advocates for yourself, which end up doing the selling for you. You don't need all of these cold calling, sending cupcakes and all this sort of stuff. At the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. Whether you've made someone successful with your product is the thing that actually makes things last, in my opinion. Again.
I think we've made some really good points, but let's try and focus now on what you guys do and what you're trying to do. Because I think ultimately the reason I got involved with you guys is because you're trying to do things differently. Again, we're talking about apps and how, it can be a sales focused. What you're describing there, your ethos is driven by, it's not just sales focus, it is trying to build those partnerships and build those relationships and everything else.
Yeah.
So it maybe because I don't think we really covered it, like maybe we could just talk about what it is that you bring to, if someone was to bring on Swoop. And I think for me, like the big question and try and answer it towards the end is, the fear is always like, am I big enough for this sort of service? Is this really right for me? Is this something that really I should be at a certain level before I worry about?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the question I get asked a lot when people are talking about this sort of thing.
Okay. Great question. Very well put, by the way. First thing. So what is Swoop? Now, Johann, you always want to tell you off because you always call us a brokerage, and in some ways, we are. But I would never have joined a brokerage, and I'm not sure you ever would have done either. So I don't see us as a brokerage.
Educate me.
Yeah. So some brokerages come with a bad name or a perception that they're just trying to earn as much money as possible. They're not necessarily doing what's right by the business. They're just trying to do what's right by them, and that generally goes against why Swoop was born. Swoop was born to begin with because a small business owner didn't have one place that they could go to where they were confident or comfortable. They would not only get the right information, but then get the right solution for their business. We think it's really important that solution isn't just debt. So that's why we do all of these other bells and whistles. That's why we do grants, we offer equity investment, EIS, as you mentioned, SEIS, EIS. We do energy savings, we look at savings that we can bring into a business. So it's trying to bring an holistic approach to a business rather than just chucking debt down someone's throat. Debt might be the answer, but if there's a grant available or there's some savings we can make in the business, isn't that business then all the better for then going for some debt? So so perception, we're not. Yes, we are a brokerage
I think
to an extent.
My perception of your industry, as it were, whether we call it a brokerage or not, moot point, but my perception has probably actually been damaged by your competitors, who are at times extremely aggressive in their constant sales tactics towards the accountants and bookkeepers. So when we've had that for the last few years, and then the Swoop comes on the block, it's a hard perception to move forward.
Yeah, and that's, to go back to what I said earlier, that's why we're so focused on a success-led approach, because then it's not about hounding people. It's just about letting our most successful partnerships talk for themselves. You were gonna say something?
No, I was just going to say, I guess where we differ from competitors as well is we were SME first, whereas a lot of our competitors were accounting first,
Yeah.
and maybe been in the industry for some time. And it's a weird space that we're in at the minute. And I always say this, and you'll see with a lot of the larger softwares that they're almost hitting like a ceiling point because, and we were discussing it the other day with Jordan Vickery, was saying, where are the rest of the accountants? Because there's the ones that we see day in day out, whether it's on LinkedIn or and we always see the same ones at events. It's a few new faces, but where's the rest of the industry? Because there's 20-odd thousand accountants or something like that in the UK, and I feel like there's almost this pool that has been worked by the industry, and it's running out, it's running dry from that respect. And I suppose, where we've come from an SME background, we've got 100,000 SMEs on the platform, and Sam and I are now building this from the ground up, and we've learned from working in different softwares what does work, what doesn't work, and the business wasn't built just for accountants. So we are a channel within Swoop, whereas most of our competitors are built for accountants and then perhaps pivoting thereafter. So it's not, I wouldn't say a privileged position, but it's more we can work with the right partners. And again, I think that word that you used earlier, it's the partnership. It's not just about, okay, let's bring on another logo and just bring another firm on. It's about how do we build this as a partnership? And everyone's unique in their own way. Every business, every accounting firm works differently, and it's about understanding what's important to you, and then to ensure that you can then deliver the right message to your clients.
To go back to your question, like who is our offering for? I think that was part of your question. We made a very clear decision when we first started that actually we didn't want this to be just for a certain type of accounting firm. So we have startup accounting firms that join us with 0 clients, and actually because they want the marketing support which we offer on top of being able to get access to finance, because they want to market to a certain type of client that probably does need funding or would be interested in saving. So we deliberately created a service that was appropriate for them. At the same time, we work with firms in the top 10. So we're trying to create a service that can also support those with potentially with more complex lens and slightly bigger. But we don't want to rule someone out just because they've got 10 clients versus someone who's got 10,000 clients, because those 10 clients might all need funding. Getting access to 10 out of 1,000 clients with some of those bigger firms can be, well, very difficult sometimes. So the relationships are not always that easy. From a business perspective, who might use Swoop? We help people from startup loans all the way to. We actually had a £2 billion company come directly through our website looking for funding, literally last week. So you'd have thought a £2 billion company would have more than enough places to go to look for funding. But I think that's the point. They don't out there because the information is just too fragmented. There's not that one source of truth somewhere. And that's what we're really trying to get to the point is through Swoop for Advisors, but also Swoop through our direct channel, is a one source of truth somewhere where a business owner can be sure that they're going to get looked after and get all the information they need.
Brilliant. If we just go back there, you mentioned your marketing support. That's fairly unique from anyone in this industry that you guys are in. Your competitors don't really do it. They might put a bit of pretense behind it, saying we give you marketing support. It's a logo or it's a pre-printed PDF that you can print off or something, or it's an hour-long video course or something on their website. Just talk us through what that marketing support is that you're offering to the accountants and bookkeepers out there.
Yeah, I think part of this was born out of the fact that I know this is not number one thing on your priority list. It's another thing that is competing for your attention or that you're trying to offer for your clients. So you don't have time to go writing content about funding, savings, keeping up to date on what's going on in the funding landscape, especially at the moment, is a bit of a full-time job. So for our partnership to be truly successful, we have to make it as easy as possible for you to roll this out to your clients, or or even just give some thought leadership to your clients. We've created a little bit of a marketing hub where you guys can go in and just take all this content. Whether you reference Swoop in it, I actually don't care. Like, if you just want to take it and slap your logo on it, that's your prerogative, to be honest, because ultimately it's going to benefit us because you're probably going to come to us with a funding solution. But if I've saved you time and I'm getting you talking about funding, savings and everything else, isn't it just win-win for everyone else? So it's a no-brainer of a support offering for us to give, and it's hugely valuable because ultimately our target audience is the same as your target audience. So why wouldn't we share that knowledge, thought leadership and everything else with you?
That's brilliant. I mean, ultimately, you're investing in goodwill,
Yeah.
in the hope that the dividends will pay back in the future at some point.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Again, whether it's being an accountant or working with the industry, we know it's a long-term play. You know, it's not something doesn't happen overnight. And also, we've got to recognize as well, you are trusting us with your clients, and it's taken you years and years and years to build the trust with your client. We have to be an extension of your business, and we have to deliver to your standards to ensure that they're getting the same service, because they won't blame Swoop, they'll blame Pofix, or they're gonna come back to you guys, and they're gonna give you guys the grief about it. So we have to deliver, and our business understands that anyway, dealing with SMEs direct, but especially for working with our accountants, that you have to give, it's the white glove treatment. It's very much about supporting you and your clients to ensure we will deliver to your standards.
So it's very much, isn't it? That in my session I was speaking at QuickBooks Connect. One of the things I said was, one of the assets in your business is your network, and you need to fill your network with people that work and think in line with you. There is no point in going out and just picking a lending company or a software provider or a insolvency practitioner just because they give you the best financial returns on a liquidation or something, and they give the best kickbacks. Actually, it's more important that they're going to look after your clients in the way that you want to deliver that service if you were doing it yourself. Now, sometimes that will mean you walk away with less money landing in your bank account from cross referrals, etc. But it's the right thing to do ethically, because that client's going to look after you in the right way. Yep. I've got an insolvency guy, so I've got one insolvency practice, big one, constantly trying to wine and dine me, like take me to a charity event, take me wine tasting, blah blah. I don't take them up on it because I've got an insolvency person, and the first question he ever asks is, "Tell me about what's going on in the minds. Like, where's their mental health? Yeah. Do I need to speak to the wife who thinks that her husband's just nearly cost them the house?" Like, he doesn't give me very much, if any, kickback most of the time, but I know he's looking after my clients in the way I would want to do it if I had the experience, knowledge and qualifications to do what he's doing for my clients. So yeah, I think it's really important that any provider of any services or software understands that.
Yep.
And it's very rare I come across any companies that are exhibiting at Accountex, etc., that actually ever consider that approach towards our clients. Because ultimately, as you say, if you mess that up, it's us that are going to suffer.
Yeah.
Like, you might not just get the ability to get that grant for that client. That's one job, okay. But ultimately, we could lose that client because of this experience. Yeah. So
the thing that I try to
carry on.
The thing I try to drum into our whole team is, if you look after the client, the P&L will look after itself.
Yep.
If you imagine, say we were to rip off one of your clients with a funding, let's say we put in a ton of comms that just wasn't necessary. The knock-on effect of that might be they don't come back to us next time they need funding. So we potentially have lost out on a second round of funding. When they realise they've been ripped off, they'll probably come to you, be pretty angry at you for the recommendation. So you look bad. You then might lose faith in us and trust in us, and therefore not bring other clients and other funding to us. So if you look at the knock-on effect, it's just not worth it. But that's the difference between short-term thinking and long-term thinking. Most brokers are very much short-term thinking, and they're trying to earn as much cash as they possibly can from every single deal. What we're trying to do is train the funding managers that we work with to think much more long-term rather than short-term, because if you do the right thing by the client, ultimately the client will come back, the accountant will have trust in you, and you'll ultimately end up winning.
Yeah, again, it's this industry. It's long-term relationship. You can't come in for 6 months and expect a return. Ultimately, it's a long-term play, and it's amazing speaking to some of the software. A lot of them, and they're going, "It's so frustrating, this industry." It's not frustrating at all. It's about understanding the customer, understanding their needs, and then helping them deliver on those needs. And that's when you get, you have for life then, and it's not for any greed or anything like that. It's for satisfaction, essentially, at the same time that, that you will work with them time and time again. And you are, like, Sam's even on some people's, white label Swoop, and Sam's down as their head of funding on their website because, it's actually, yes, we are part of your team, ultimately. In the same way you'll outsource compliance work, all you're doing is outsourcing your funding. And we have to deliver to your standards.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I think from my point of view, though, if they try and look at showcasing why Swoop is so, powerful at what it does, like if we think about the tech side of thing and we look at how you kind of develop this platform, I think that's quite unique, or at least I've never seen it in the ones I've been showcased before. Talk us a little bit of how that's actually helping and looking, because it is analytic driven, I assume, or something like that, because you're offering now so much within your suite. There's not just funding, there's the energy saving, there's everything else that goes with it. But what's the kind of brainchild behind the tech driving that and trying to find those solutions, everything else, and how is it easy? Is it set up? Is it a timely exercise, or what's it like?
Depends which bit you're looking at. I mean, the grant stuff. So we have a grant, for those that don't know, we have a grant finding tool. If you've ever tried to look for a grant for yourself or for your clients, it's an absolute pig of a landscape to navigate yourself. They're constantly changing. You literally need a full-time resource to keep on top of it. Fortunately, we have a full-time resource to keep on top of it. But it is, behind the scenes, it's a very manual process trying to keep, because, okay, we might have the tech, but doesn't mean that all the councils, local LEPs, everything else has the tech that we can plug into. So it's a manual exercise to keep on top of the grant landscape. And then what you see in Swoop is obviously the serene duck on the top of the water rather than the legs underneath. What we're basically trying to do with the tech, and we're not there yet. Our tech isn't perfect, but we're still at fairly early stage with it, and it's still something that we're working really hard on. But it's supposed to just make it as seamless as possible for a client or an accountant to see all of the possible options that are there for the business. That's just what we want. We just want it to be one place for them to go to have an understanding of the art of possible. But however much we develop the tech, in my opinion, I keep saying in my opinion, but in my opinion, the human element is always going to be really important. And especially at the moment, there's so much emotion around funding because so much has changed over the last 6 months. The base rate's gone from 0.25 to 4%. All of the government support has pretty much left us. So for those people where their first foray into debt was a bounce back loan, for example, they think that the cost of debt is 2.5% with no personal guarantee. It's probably never going to be there again from a debt perspective. So they're now going back into the world of debt, and they're now starting at 8 or 9%, and they're probably looking at 12 to 15%, depending on the profitability and affordability in the business. It's going to be a huge shock for them. If it's just a computer that tells them that, or a piece of tech that tells them that, that's for me. That's never going to sit right. There's always needs to be that human element behind the tech. Shoving someone down a tech journey is what is the problem with high street banks right now. Relationship managers have disappeared on the whole, other than for a certain amount. So you'll go down as a business, you'll go down a computer says yes or no journey. If the computer says no, you don't actually know why you've been declined a lot of the time. So you go away just thinking you're a rubbish business. Oh, they're not going to lend to me. Again, I think it's really important that if it is a no, maybe it's a not right now because of X, Y, Z, and you give something that the business can take away and go back with that's constructive rather than just being, sorry, your business isn't good enough for us to lend to. So however much we develop the tech, I'm always going to be passionate about the human element of it.
I think the one thing that Sam covered there, and there's one thing that we both agreed when we first set this up, was if we give you a no, it's the best no you'll ever hear, because you need to understand why. And yeah, walking away from your bank and going, I don't have a clue why I've just been declined for that. I thought I had a great business. But, and that again is the thing that we've instilled with the business is you always have to explain why. And actually, there might be a reason, and we know we can work on that, and it might take 3 months to come back to that, but at least they know, and it gives them something to focus on. And that, for me, is massively important.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I think the overall message here is people need to talk more about the relationships rather than the tech. The tech helps. The tech saves time, but actually, the value is in the relationship,
100%.
as it is with our clients. Like, in theory, I could put all sorts of barriers in front of me, between me and my client, so I don't actually have to talk to them and have a relationship. I could be the next automated accounting provider out there that runs an accounting firm where you call into a call center. There's no relationships had. They just throw the numbers in, and it spits out reports. But that's not what people want. People buy from people.
Yeah.
So,
but also, just to add to that as well, the problem there is the ones who do use the sausage factory. It's like, great, I've got this for 100 quid a month, brilliant, well done. But you take your advice from the guy down the pub, and actually the guy down the pub doesn't have a qualification in accounting or know how to deliver business advisory. So that's where the mistakes make. That's where they get the problems. And then they knock on the door of you guys going, can you help me? And it's like, but, you should have listened to me in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's why, the fees are the fees because of what we deliver and how we work with it.
Just to give you another example of where the human element is so important is around energy. So obviously we had the unfortunate Ukraine and Russia war. That spiked the cost of energy up, which is not yet recovered. So if you had an energy contract that was pre-Russia-Ukraine war, you were probably paying something between 10 or 15p. Great. If you renewed in 2022 at the peak of the energy prices, you were probably paying between 50 and 60 pence. And, okay, horrendous. Now we've come back to something that's more sort of 30, 35. So if you took a 12-month contract in 2022, now you're getting savings, so you're happy. But if now is the first time that you've renewed since before the Ukraine-Russia war, you're still probably paying twice as much on your energy, so it's a huge shot. If you've just gone down a tech journey that suddenly said now you've got to pay double for your energy, obviously you're going to be shocked, freaked out, and probably say no. But if you put it into context of where we've been, where we are now, potentially where we're gonna get, which might get worse again, there's a human needs to have that conversation with you about your options and why it's this, what you maybe should do next. And there's plenty of examples of that in the funding world as well as the savings world. So we're both just champions of relationships, basically.
cool. Okay, let's go into the funding world, because it's a scary place. It's a very expensive place at this moment in time compared to if we look at any of the new generation coming into small business, then they've only ever grown up with under 1% interest rates from the bank. Whereas you speak to my dad and grandparents, etc., they'll go, "Oh, I remember when mortgage rates were at 16%.
Not an hour, lad.
Yeah, that 4% is still a steal. It's still a bargain." Regardless of what it used to be and how bad it has been in the past, the problem we've got is these young people are coming into business and looking at debt, and it's very expensive compared to what they thought it would ever be and what they've ever grown up with. We then put on top of that the fact that a lot of small businesses are up to their eyeballs in debt or over ratio of debt, because no lender would have lent them the money that they were lent during COVID, and the only reason they did was the government backed it. It was streamlined, no personal guarantees, like you mentioned earlier. Where is the funding market going in the next 12 months? Are we expecting the rates to start dropping off again, like we're seeing the energy prices starting to drop a bit? Or do we think actually it's probably going to stay a bit like this for quite a while? Is it going to get worse? Obviously, this can only be holistic and of point of view, it can't be factored and can't hold anyone to anything. It's purely just an opinion piece.
Yep.
But you guys are in this market. Where do you think we're going?
Next 12 months, I think it's going to be fairly stable to where we are now. We have seen some lenders reduce their interest rates by a percent, and that's probably because when base rates started to rise, they overly adjusted their rates to begin with to allow for potential future rises. The future rises, those rises came probably a little bit less than they maybe imagined. So now they've started to come down that little bit. Overall, though, I think we're going to be about where we are now for at least the next 12 months, probably.
But that's really helpful for any of our listeners
Depends
to
when
know
this goes
that.
out. I just want to point out. It depends how this actually gets posted out. Yeah,
This will be going out in the next week or two.
Monday,
So this is an opinion on the industry at that point in time.
So if you, again, to go back to what we've had the last 2 years is also unprecedented. We've never had such low interest rates. So I completely understand what you're saying in terms of there's a generation that have only ever experienced that, but they've experienced something that is completely unprecedented. This is much more precedented. This is much more normal, this sort of environment. So yeah, unfortunately, people are just going to have to get that a little bit used to it and learn how to manage debt a little bit properly. So debt doesn't have to be something you're burdened with or shouldered with. Like a lot of businesses that we work with are using debt to help them to scale their business a lot faster than they would be able to organically.
I think it's also worth adding as well. Funding is a lot more flexible now. It's not your term loan that you got from your bank that was set amounts every month or anything. It can be based on what your sales are that month. It genuinely, there is so many different options out there, and it's probably fair to say asset finance as well is coming round. We're seeing obviously a lot more cases from asset finance because of, I guess, the world of PGs. People are now thinking, okay, there's a lot more attractive rates and deals, I suppose, from an asset perspective. It is, and again, back to the traditional market, and I don't disagree with you, it does seem scary, but that's the traditional market. You've got to think about the digital-led lenders that are out there now who think differently, and they will. Yes, you've got the store-led lenders, but also you've got the ones that will lend based on the algorithms as well, which are probably a lot more flexible than the traditional loan rooms that your client would normally see or who they would Google essentially.
Great point. So I'm conscious of time, so let's make sure that we're kind of going through all of the benefits that Swoop can give, and it's back to pain points again, isn't it? Like that's ultimately what your service helps for. It's to find those pain points for accountants and for the clients as well, and solve those issues for them. So one of the things we've not talked about, and correct me if it's like been taken away or anything, but R&D, because I know we're proud from our firm that we do R&D and we like, and it's a great solution for clients. It's one of those really sticky areas where a client that you're helping them with R&D and items like that, they're going to come time and time again for you. How are you helping accountants do that for them? What's your take on it? How do you help them achieve and bring that in? And because it is an area that's getting more and more complex, and you are getting to the point where you're going to have to start looking at external help for it, because ultimately HMRC are, rightly so, they're making it more compliant based, so that there's not those pirates out there anymore doing it. And you guys are building trust, building relationships. You are the sort of people that we could happily pass over that sort of work to, where we wouldn't with traditional R&D based companies.
We've always been very careful about what R&D we take on, certainly in-house. We do some in-house, and then we also have supporting partners from an R&D point of view. But if there's ever anything that's a little bit in the grey area, we're just not going to touch it. It's just not worth it these days. There's so many, like you said, the rules have basically changed. The government's changed the rules because of cowboys in this arena. There's just people that think there's R&D everywhere, and just because you might have got it through on a claim doesn't mean that you're plain sailing and you can get away with it. Again, this goes back to probably the guy in the pub who says that you can get away with it. So we're very careful. We're proud of our R&D record. We're actually 100% success rate on R&D. So it's something we're really proud of. But at the same time, we are very understanding that lots of accountants do it. So we don't step on toes. We don't try and take R&D away from people. The offering is there for those that don't do it, or for those that do it and maybe don't have enough time to do some of it. Then maybe we can fill in and help with those. So again, it comes back to partnership. We'll never blur the line, because it's just not worth it coming back on us. It's not worth it coming back on you. it's just one of those things. It's an amazing incentive, and I was really sad to see that the rules have changed because, you know, there are plenty of deserving businesses out there that should be getting this, because R&D is one of the most generous tax incentive schemes in the world, let alone what we've got here in the UK. And it's a shame that people are exploiting it and ruining it for everyone else that is generally doing R&D. So yeah, it's something that we're very cautious of.
Yeah, and I think amazing for me what the amount of. So I remember Andrea and Kieran saying to us, our founders saying, "Oh, we obviously don't want to talk about R&D in front of accountants." I was like, "No, we absolutely do, but it's more." And the amount of firms that I speak to and go, "Oh, you do R&D? Oh, that's amazing." You know what? As much as I'd love to do it, I'd rather just pass it off to someone who can deal with the whole thing for me. Especially as Sam said, the changes that are coming through. There's a lot of nervousness around it now, and it's like, yeah, and we'll do it when you want us to do it. But if you want to take it on, it's fine. We have no qualms over it, and we're never going to push it unless it's something that's on your agenda you want us to support. And again, yes, that trust piece.
Brilliant. So we've talked about grants and the time it takes to look for them, and they change from county to council to government to nation. We've spoken about the fact that energy prices and contracts need looking at. We've spoken about R&D. We've spoken about debt and asset financing and stuff. Is there any other key features in Swoop's portfolio that you'd want to discuss with us or highlight to us and our listeners that has been really beneficial and maybe is a bit of an unsung hero that more accountants should know about in order to support their small clients even further?
Well, there's an easy one for me, which is FX and international payments, and that's just because if you're a business that is spending more than 20 grand a year abroad somewhere, doesn't matter where, there's a chance you're being fleeced or paying too much from an exchange rate point of view, from bank charge point of view. It's at least worth having a conversation, looking at it, and just goes back to the point where if we can make savings within the business, let's look at doing that first rather than the other one is credit score. So lots of businesses aren't aware of their credit score, why it's important. The last thing you want is to decide you need funding and then fall at the first hurdle because your credit score is in a very high risk category. So we can work with the business to help them to improve that. And putting this back on you as accountants and trying to find an easy added value piece, grants, credit scores, savings. It's just, there's probably something that's applicable to every single one of your clients. A lot of the accountants that we speak to get too bogged down in the debt side and thinking, oh, I don't have enough debt opportunities. Why? How is this valuable? But debt is just one side of the things that we can help with, or you can help with through us. There's so many other things that you can do, and it doesn't have to take up that much time to fund it.
Yeah, I think the three key areas you just mentioned there, Sam, not one of those, it needs a conversation with the client because you've got access to their energy bills because you pull the data through. You've got access to the FX because you've got the bank data coming through and the grants you find on our system anyway. So we can quite quickly, just from that data, take it away and go, guys, this is the savings you can make to this client, or actually there isn't one for this one now, but we'll monitor it and we'll come back to you when there is a saving. And you can just send an email out to them or pick up the phone and go, did you know? And that's the powerful bit of being able to go, I have done some research, or I found out that we've now got you this. And you're doing it for nothing, essentially, in that respect. We're doing the heavy lifting. You're just delivering the good news. Yeah, no brainer.
Right. In regards to credit score, now we all know how important our credit score is as an individual. We're all probably signed up to Experian or some kind of credit score tool that tells us every month whether it's gone up or down. And as soon as you go for your remortgage or mortgage, you need to send a copy of your credit score to help your application. You're right, business owners don't know about it. And even if they're not looking to borrow money, it's important to have a good credit score for other suppliers like your power and stuff like that. And there are suppliers out there for businesses who will decide on how much of a credit account you get with them based on your credit score. So if we've got someone in construction or something like that they don't know their credit score, what do us or our listeners need to do to find that credit score? And then how is it you're going to help them to deliver get them a better credit score?
I think you're right. And we think about consumers, and I'm exact same as you. weirdly, I've got credit score and credit karma on, and I get so excited when they go, "Oh, you've got 6 points, it's gone up." But I don't need the funding right now, but I know that it's there if I need it. I'm going to throw some stats at you. They always say 72% of stats are made up on the spot. See what I did there? But there's something like 10% of small businesses that know their own credit, what their credit score is, but they will know 90% know what their personal credit score. And I think for us, it's really, really important to get that out at the start of the relationship. It's also, I think, important to manage expectations because, you know, again, back to the bounce back loans of 2.5%, they're going, well, I want a loan at 2.5% because that's what that was. Well, that's funny because your credit score is currently sitting at 42%, 42 out of 100. You're probably not going to get funding based on that. Oh, why is it that? Okay, let's explore. Let's understand why is that credit score so low? How do we improve that? And we have a service that we can work on to help improve it. And I think it's again about that education piece. It's like, let's see where you are now, where you want to go. But there's never a time that it has to be delivered. It's more about actually, let's tell you about it now. You know, to your point earlier, you're not looking for funding now, but you might be in the future. So let's get you in the best possible health for when you do need that funding. And yeah, it should be something that's talked about far and wide with every business. They should understand where they are. You know, EBITDA is a great thing, but actually, what is your credit score?
Yeah, to your point, you might not know what your credit score is, but your supplier probably does. They're looking. So shouldn't you be aware of that and looking how to improve? It can affect what energy tariff you're getting. A lot of the suppliers at the moment, super risk averse. They're actually taking security deposits up front from a business before, on top of their new tariff. We've seen as bad as 25% of the annual cost of energy required up front. That stuff's happening when you've got a very high risk or high risk credit score. So, you know, there's just numerous reasons why it's worthwhile keeping on top of it. Within Swoop, as a direct to business, it's really easy to do. You just integrate your bank and then can keep on top of it. It's coming in the advisor portal where you can really quickly, easily do it and monitor it yourself. At the moment, the alternative is just to give us that business name and we can go and get that credit score for you with a detailed credit report.
And it seems like everyone should be doing it, shouldn't it? So definitely should take the chance to it. Sam, this has been absolutely brilliant. I think we've learned more than ever before. And we have cool friends, haven't we? It's been really insightful. So thank you very much. And I hope as well. I hope the best thing we got out of this is that these two go away and do their own podcast going forward. I think. What do you say? There's swoop to the nation. I don't know. You have to figure the name out yourself.
Jedwood, Swoopwood.
No, but thank you very much. It's been absolutely brilliant. Do you guys want to kind of plug anything you're going to be talking at or seeing at? Is there any kind of new features you want to talk about coming or anything like that?
Just to say, if you're an accountant, just come check us out. There's such easy added value that you can be providing to your clients that you might not be at the moment. So, we literally do have a solution for everyone. If you're a business, then again, why wouldn't you just come and look at what is possible? We've got new blog content on all sorts of different things added every single day. So just come and use us as that one-stop shop for knowledge. And there's going to be no pushy sell from whether you're an accountant or a business. There's never a pushy sell to you. It's just, we're here for you when you need us.
And are you at Countex, Digital Accounting Show, Business Show?
All the above.
All the above.
Yeah, so Digital Accounting Show, Countex, and Business Show. No, we've not. I think we've had some presence at the Business Show previously. But the bigger shows are always the difficult ones because you don't get to have the conversations. It's more about name and number and then you've forgotten about. So for us, more the intimate events, the better, definitely.
I'll be on stage at Digital Accounting Show. I doubt I'll be as popular as you guys, but I'm chairing a panel on accountants providing or scaling a profitable cash flow forecasting service for distressed clients.
Ooh.
Do you know what? It's been
there's such a catchy title.
I didn't come up with the title.
Remember that one.
But yeah, whether or not that's possible, I don't know.
And that's me, and said, some of the best business is done and after the party as well, isn't it? Yeah. So a few beers, let's talk business, and you guys are very much accommodating for that one. So we thank you for that. Again, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on our show, and I'm sure we'll be asking you to come on again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah,
Well,
really
well,
appreciate it.